Hi friends, Sam here with Happily Hooked. So I'm really excited. We're starting a new series today on how to join granny squares. So we've done a couple of these videos before and I'll link those down below. But there is a billion different ways on how to join granny squares. So I'm going to show you different tutorials and different ways to do it over the next couple weeks or so of different ways to join granny squares. So we've done like the mattress stitch, and I think we've done like a front slip stitch or something like that. So we're gonna do all different kinds. We're gonna do join as you go. We're gonna do all of them that I can find. So if you have a method that you want to know, make sure you leave that in the comments below for me. I'm really excited. I love granny squares and I'm so excited that they've come back in popularity again. So I'm gonna grab my hook and my yarn and I'm gonna make some granny squares and show you guys how to join them. Hi friends, real quick, if you guys want to join the coolest crochet community on the internet and join over 20,000 members that love yarn just as much as you do, click the link in the description below and I cannot wait to see you in our community. Alright, so today I'm going to show you guys how to do a zigzag slip stitch join on your granny squares. So I have always struggled with joining granny squares, which is why I wanted to start this little mini series that we're doing. But this zigzag slip stitch is probably one of my favorites. So it's a little tiny bit tricky at first just because you want to make sure your yarn doesn't come through, but it looks fantastic when you're using two different colors. So if your granny squares are the same colors, I recommend using a contrasting color. So we've got our Red Heart Super Saver in tea leaf, and then I have Red Heart Super Saver in gold, just so you can see this. So to start out, we're going to make our slip stitch, and we're going to set that aside, and then we're going to grab our first granny square. So this is the side that I'm seaming to this side. We're going to grab our granny square, and I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch that I want to start the join on. So it's this chain stitch here, and then I'm going to put my slip stitch on my hook and pull the slip stitch through. But I'm not going to pull the knot through the stitch. And then I'm going to take my other granny square and we're going to work in the top down. So what I do is I turn my granny square over. So this is how it will be joined. So it will join in this corner here in this chain, and I flip it over and I insert my hook into that chain stitch, and then I twist it back around so that way it goes where it's supposed to. And then I take my working yarn and I yarn over and I slip stitch. So it's a little bit tricky on this first one. So you pull through the stitch and you pull through the slip stitch that was on, or the loop that was on your hook. So now you have your corner joined together by your slip stitch. So now we're going to go into the second stitch and we're going to yarn over and make a slip stitch. And then we're going to go into the other granny square from the top down, yarn over, and make a slip stitch. And then we go back into the bottom granny square and make a slip stitch. And then we go, and we want to keep our working yarn behind both granny squares. Then we go into the top down on the next stitch and we make a slip stitch. And then we go back. So we're just going back and forth between the granny squares and slip stitching them together without slip stitching both of the granny squares actually together. So it starts looking like this, a nice little zigzag. So you just alternate between a slip stitch on this side and a slip stitch on this side. That's all. And it might take you a few tries to get it down the first time, and that's okay. So you just insert into the stitch and slip stitch, and then insert into the stitch on the top granny square. This one's a little tricky because it's a chain stitch. And my chains tend to be a little bit tighter. And slip stitch. Insert into here and slip stitch. Insert into here. And we just keep making these alternating slip stitches until we get to the end. And if your chains are too hard to work into for your granny square, you can always just go like crochet around them. That's okay too. That's what I just did on one. But then you have, and obviously these aren't blocked, but you have a zigzag slip stitch join. I love this one. I think it's so pretty. It kind of reminds me of a crab stitch, how it kind of gives that stitch definition, but I love it. I think it's so much fun. And if you're making something with a bunch of the same color granny square, it just adds such a pretty contrast. I just love it. But yeah, so that is how you do a zigzag slip stitch join for your granny squares. And if you have any questions, make sure you leave those in the comments below. I will do my absolute best to answer all of them for you. If you've made this before, let me know what you used or what yarns you used and what you made. I would love to see pictures of it, just because this is probably one of my favorite join methods. But yeah, so I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys!